Hi, guys. Everybody wave. This is the very first Cosplay for All podcast. I'll be your host, Megan Golden. Basically, what we'll be doing is discussing cosplay, just the ins and outs, different like techniques and materials and cosplayers and costumes, anything under the sun, any questions that people want to have answered on this show, we can do that. Let's start with some personal introductions. I'm Megan, and I just said that. I've been cosplaying for, I don't know, like two and a half years. It's coming up on 3 soon. I'm the cosplay captain for Comic-Con Tips, and these are the lovely people that contribute to the site as well. And I will pass. Well, I guess I can't pass a microphone. He already has one.
Hi, everybody. I am Scott. I am part of Nerds of Play. I've been cosplaying for almost a year now, but I've been crafting, building, and tinkering pretty much all my life. Yeah. So as a little kid, you know, all the screwdrivers and whatnot have been hidden from me because I disassemble everything.
Can we break it? Yes, we can.
Yeah.
But can we rebuild it?
No, we can't.
We can try.
A different department.
Okay, I'm Noah. Been cosplaying for about, I'd say 4 years now. And I've always been a geek, and I've been the outcast of my family for it because I'm a geek in an ocean full of jocks. So, yeah.
I'm Whitney. I'm also part of the Nerds of Play.
Me too.
I've been cosplaying since 2013, so I think that's 2 years. Yeah, math. I like to crossplay a lot, so a lot of characters that I will cosplay that you'll see will be male, but that's okay because it's fun. Yeah, cosplaying is just fun. I enjoy it. I like RPGs. I like my dog Smee. He's pretty cool too.
Smee like Peter Pan.
Smee like Peter Pan, and he's fat, so it works.
I'm Ronan. I've been cosplaying for a little over a year now. I've been doing construction, things like that, building things, tearing things up. As long as I can remember, making catapults, things like that. So,
Right on. So what got all of you guys into cosplay?
Well, I basically started off with a very ambitious plan of trying to do Sephiroth right off the bat. And I decided to bring in my skill in animatronics, and I built myself a wing. Unfortunately, I am a hardcore procrastinator
And perfectionist.
And other contributing factors. And unfortunately, I didn't get it finished in time, but I'm still working on it. So that's what got me in. And now I'm hooked, and it's a serious addiction problem.
Somebody help
This
me.
is actually Cosplay Anonymous.
yeah. Hello, my name's Ronan.
Hi, Ronan.
Hey.
I was actually working in video game sales when I found out what cosplay was. They would play the same like little like TV segments on a loop over and over again, and they were casting the spokesmodel for Lollipop Chainsaw. And Jessica Nigri was one of the contestants, and I didn't know who she was, and I didn't know any of the contestants. I still don't remember the rest of them, but she stuck out to me every time I was like watching the auditions. And I'm like, wow, she's really talented. She was the only one that had like the costume that was identical to the game. Like she's the only one that looked like they were really putting the effort in. Her personality was there. The acting was there. And I'm like, who is that? And eventually, like every day I would come into work, I'd like watch the process, and she ended up winning. And I Googled her and I'm like, who is she? And then I was like, she does this every day for a living. It's like Halloween whenever she wants. And I'm like, she can do that. I can do that. So I just decided like that's something that I wanted to get myself into. Like I'd make my own Halloween costumes and stuff like that. So yeah, cool.
Honestly, it was Halloween for me because me and my best friend Christian, he's tall, I was shorter and chubbier, and we were Mario and Luigi. And we did those suits proud, and we wore them everywhere. And that was basically to start off. Every Halloween, we'd run around the neighborhood, literally just running around being Mario and Luigi like all day.
Since you've been hopping?
Yeah. It was fun, and we could do different things like getting pizza, and people literally stop you taking your picture for getting a pizza. And after that, it was like, I'm going to do this for a while with many different characters. So
Nice.
a nerd, well, not a nerd, a cosplayer was born?
So mine basically started, I'm still trying to figure that out, but I started cosplaying during Salt Lake Comic Con 2013. You know, Salt Lake finally announces that they're having a comic convention, something I wanted to go to for years, but I could never afford it because, you know, San Diego was the only one I knew ever existed, and it's really expensive and hard to get into, and that just wasn't happening. So when Salt Lake finally announced it, I was like, yes, I am going. And then, you know, I was like, I think people dress up for these things. Yeah, that sounds fun. What character should I be? Let's be my favorite video game character that's a female that I wanted to actually have a Halloween costume for a while, Tifa Lockhart. So I did that, went to like Comic-Con and cosplay every day, and it was like the best experience ever. I was a kid on Christmas the entire time, just wandering and eyes wide. And
it's a whole new world.
it is.
It really
and now
is.
I
It really is.
Oh,
the
geez.
world.
Let's not
and
bring
now
that up.
I'm addicted to
Shine,
cosplay crack,
shine.
and I just can't stop. And it's all the cosplays. I'm gonna do all the cosplays.
Yeah, my story is basically the same as Whitney's. Is, you know, as soon as they mentioned that Salt Lake Comic Con is going to have, or Salt Lake's going to have a Comic Con, I'm like, I got to dress up. I've always wanted a Stormtrooper outfit. So I go online, start Googling. I'm like, okay, we're looking at about $1,000, $1,500, and I'm fat. So what am I? Yeah, you can do it, but, you know, but then I found the site. It's called Obscurus Crusade, and they make Space Marines. It's from a game called Warhammer 40,000.
The first time I saw yours, I was like blown away.
And that was my first costume I've ever made. I had no idea what cosplaying was. I just like, I want to make that. So I spent some time, about 3 months, and built that. And then I just happened to get accepted into the cosplay contest. And I actually met about 5 or 6 people there that I'm still really good friends with that were like, showed me that this is a thing. You know, people actually dress up and they're nice and, you know, supportive. And yeah, we're competing with each other, but who cares? We're just having fun.
Yeah.
And so it
you're
was
there
like,
for a reason.
I am hooked.
I
Yeah.
love the cosplay community. Like
Mhm.
we are just this giant weird family.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and like the forums that they have on like Facebook and stuff, like that's where you meet so many people, and
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
everyone is so willing to help others.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's what I love most about that whole community, because
Yeah.
everybody's nice.
That's one thing about Facebook. I think it's really, you know, made it possible to really interact with people that you've
Mhm.
never met before. Because a lot of
Mhm.
times I'll meet someone, been talking to them a lot on Facebook or something, and finally meet them like a year later. Oh, hey, finally meeting you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Oh,
helps
no.
to make friends for conventions too, because
Mhm.
some people, you know,
Yeah.
they show up alone or they show up with like a friend or two, and then being able to like be like, oh, hey, I recognize you from the internet. Like,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
band together and not walk around alone.
Yeah.
It's
So a
so
lot of
much
times-
fun.
A lot of times I'll meet someone and like just have a good conversation with them, and as soon as they leave, who was that? Who was that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know your
Or
face.
no,
Yeah,
I
I
know.
know your
you
costume.
start to refer to them by who they were.
Yes.
Like, you
yes.
like-
Yes.
You start to
Star Lord.
you start to
that
recognize people
guy.
based on their costume.
And you don't know what they look like outside of
Right.
costume.
Yeah.
Like you see them and there's like, oh hey, and you're just like, hang on. Just
I
let me
got-
like picture you with
Yeah.
like makeup.
Have you ever been recognized outside of cosplay, like at the store or
Yes.
Yeah.
Harbor
Yes,
Freight?
actually. And
I-
it was weird.
Yeah.
I went out to dinner with my dad, and we were at like it was Charlie Chow's downtown,
Mhm.
and I'm like sitting there, and the waiter comes up to me, and he's just like, You're the Tomb Raider girl, right?" And my
Mhm.
dad just looks at me and goes, "Get a life, Megan." I was like, "Dad, this is my life."
I was walking out
Nice.
of Walmart when I used to live in my apartment, and I was walking out, and someone said like, "Nice to see you, Booker," and that's my cosplay name. And I like looked around, and like he like waved and just walked away, and I was like, "Hi, okay." It's like, all right, yeah, sure, like that's what I go by, like, but it was just weird to have somebody finally be like, "You, dude," I'm like, that guy.
Yeah, I was at Joann's Fabrics buying fabric for a cosplay, and the lady behind the counter looked at me, and then she looked at my phone case, which is Vegeta, and she looked at me again. She's like, "Were you at Anime Bonsai, and were you Vegeta?" I was like, "Yes." She's like, "I saw you on this stage in the cosplay contest." I was like, "How do you even recognize me when like I was like 50 feet or more away from you?" But it was crazy. It's interesting.
It's weird seeing people outside of their costumes. Just like we would go to like cosplay night at the Penalty Box. It's a charity event that they have like once a month. And like some people, like they'll dress up in different costumes, but there are a couple people that have the same costume every time, but they have masks on.
Mhm.
And I don't have a clue to this day what they look like outside of the
I just did that
mask.
the other day. I looked up someone that was there. I was like, I'm gonna look, oh, that's who that is. Okay, that's what he looks like normally.
I would scroll through their
Mhm.
like Facebook page. I'm such a creep. And I'm like, I have to see what their face looks like. So if I ever do see them, I can like say hi or something. So I've never like worn like a mask in cosplay other than like Leatherface, and that was only like half. But yeah, it's hard to recognize people. Like you start calling them by their actual like names, either their cosplay names or just the character that they that they are a lot.
That's true.
You been recognized, buddy?
Other than the occasional weird stare once in a while, but that's only because I recently started wearing a beanie. I normally cosplay is Two-Face, and I go full out. I shave the full side of my head, and I did that for a couple of days, and I noticed that quite a few people noticed it was an unusual haircut.
I didn't think you just lost a bet.
Choice.
Yeah. Other than that, I haven't been recognized. Not. I don't know. I guess as far as costumes, I haven't made as many as some of these other people in this room. So maybe eventually I'll be pulled out in awkward situations and whatnot.
So speaking of drastic haircuts, what's the most unusual or drastic thing you've done to cosplay with, or because of cosplay? I guess.
I will take point on that. Back to my hair. So I shaved my head, right? But also what I did is I have a I have a 3D printer, and instead of doing building teeth and then just putting them on my lip, I actually printed out a mouthpiece. I put it in my mouth to actually part this half of my face, and then we put the prosthetics on and everything. But the downside of that is the function of the lips is to keep the spit in your mouth. So besides not being able to keep the spit in my mouth, I was constantly drooling. I couldn't speak very well, and I couldn't eat for the whole convention. So that was kind of a bummer.
And afterwards, made sure to go to his favorite places to eat.
Yes, because I have such lovely friends.
Were lessons learned.
Yeah, but given it again, I'll do it again because I just love doing it so much that that's why I'm keeping my hair as it is. I'm gonna grow out the other half, shave it again, and do it all over again.
Because we're going to another con soon.
Yep. Yep. So that's the most drastic thing I've done so far.
I haven't done anything too drastic. My hair was already green for a little while, but then I dyed it green again so I could pull off Madam Hydra without having to buy a wig. And now that I don't have green hair and I'm not intending to do that anytime soon, I'm going to have to get a wig to finish that. But yeah, it's about as drastic. I haven't really done anything too crazy.
Mine would probably be wearing a wig. I know that seems funny, but like I've never done that in my life until I cosplayed.
Yeah, it's weird. I haven't done anything quite as exotic as Scott, but probably the most extreme thing was waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning after only like an hour of sleep during Salt Lake Comic Con so that I could get into makeup for my Poison Ivy, which took 5 hours.
Wow. And
then being awake for another like 24 or more. That was fun.
I think I actually might be able to rival Scott because I cosplayed Pam from Archer. And I had to go bra shopping with my mom. And I had to try them on. And it was very awkward walking around in like a Kmart and a Walmart trying on bras. But I found out if you want really big bras, you got to go to Walmart because other places, just for some reason don't make bras big enough. But yeah.
Oh dear. I take mine back. I thought of one based off of what he said. So I once made a costume from Archer, the TV show.
Ooh, yeah.
But I was Cheryl Tunt, the Martian Queen. And so I had to make a skirt out of bubble wrap. And I had to wear a dryer hose as my top.
And just a dryer hose.
And just a dryer hose. Nothing else. And so putting that on with lots and lots and lots of duct tape to make it stable. And then actually going out in public was interesting.
That is super funny. I've done like 2 Poison Ivy costumes, but the very first one, we had an event like the next day, and I'm like, everyone decided that they were going to do DC characters, and I'm a huge Marvel fan, so I didn't really have anything readily available. So we're like, let's just get a bunch of leaves. It'll be easy. And so we're in my friend's basement and we're like trying to glue the leaves to what I was wearing, which wasn't a lot. And she's like hot gluing leaves to my backside, and I'm hot gluing leaves to my front side. We've got like just hot glue guns everywhere, and like our friends from the floor pulling leaves off of a vine, and we're just like, we have a whole assembly line, and it was just so awkward. And I'm like leaning over a stool and just like letting people glue me, and I got burned. I got scarred from a glue gun because of that night, and I wore that costume once, and I'll probably never wear it again.
That happens.
For cosplay.
Yes.
Yes, retired costumes. So many bad ones that I've just, the first couple ones that I've made were just, some of the Lara Croft one I've consistently like upgraded. So that one's been better and better, but there are some that I've just worn once and I'm like, I can't, like never again.
I think that's a good point, because I mean, a lot of people when they cosplay, they see the best.
Yeah.
They see your 8th iteration of this costume that you made. They don't see the first one you made. And so they think, oh, well, I'm not that good. I can't make this that good. No, it's Space Marine. I've upgraded it about 4 times now. The arms that I first did versus my helmet that was the last piece I did. And it's the 5th helmet that I've done. You know, and so you can see, if you really get into it, you can see the progression that people have done. And so when you're seeing it, it's like in a pageant where you're seeing the person at their best.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Especially when you go to a convention, you see something really intimidating and you're like, I will never get to that level. But it really just takes a lot of work.
Yeah.
A lot of work and a lot of man hours.
Yeah.
I have a costume that's almost being forced to be retired. My Scarecrow, the crotch kind of blew out on it. And now it's literally like I have to like get duct tape or something and kind of strap it or get rope and tie it, because if not, I'm
just get burlap.
I have twine and I'm trying to sew it up, but for some reason it's not sticking. But yeah, I blew the crotch out of my Scarecrow.
People kept asking me why I never like cosplayed as any other female besides like Lara Croft, and so I'm like, I'll be Hit Girl because I love Kick-Ass, and so I started to do it, and it was such a makeshift costume. I made it like a couple days before I actually needed it for I think it was the first Salt Lake Comic Con. I don't even remember now. It's a memory I've repressed. And it was like, it was okay. I was way more proud of the Tomb Raider costume. And the one that ended up on Fox 13 was Hit Girl. I saw that and I was like, oh my gosh. It was just so, that one got immediately retired. Eventually I'll do a better one, but now that I actually feel like I have the know-how.
You're like, that's what I look like.
Yeah.
You're going in the closet and you're staying there.
I kept a lot of the pieces. I'm a costume hoarder. I'll hoard anything I can. I'm like, this'll work. So a bunch of Hit Girl has been recycled already. But yeah, it's
nice. Have you guys ever bought something for cosplay and then used it in real life?
Yes.
Yep.
Actually, both ways. I always go to Home Depot and like, I could use it for that. I could use this for that. You don't have to plumb with that one. I can use it for this. You know?
Yeah, exactly. I have an array of hiking boots because of Lara Croft. She makes up most of my wardrobe. I have shorts that I wear like regularly, and I have so many pairs of boots now. And I'm just like, if I'm gonna spend money on them, because I'm not gonna make my own shoes. Don't know how to make
not a cobbler.
No. I'm like, I might as well buy something that I know I can use in real life too, because I'm a recycler.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that I've used so far is a nice pair of gloves that I bought. I bought a pair of gloves off of Amazon for my Sephiroth costume, and winter came around and my hands were cold, so I figured, hey, those look like nice gloves. And I used them, and I actually broke them in, and they're really nice gloves that I have now. They're part of my wardrobe. So
a question that comes up a lot in cosplay is, do you have to make everything yourself, or is buying a costume still considered cosplaying?
My rule to that is there's 2 rules to cosplay: costume and play. There is no other rules.
I agree. Yep.
Yeah.
I
you
agree.
can buy it. You can. Now the only thing is when you go into contests and stuff like that, contests will have rules.
Right.
Saying it has to be so much percentage made versus bought. But generally, I think anything goes. Doesn't care if you go to a Blue Boutique and buy something sexy. If that's a costume and you're playing, it's a cosplay.
There you go.
That's true.
That's exactly how I feel. Like there are some things where I'll like make certain parts of my costume, but I'll buy other pieces, or I'll buy something that looks similar enough, and I'll fix it or like alter it or dye it. Like Madam Hydra, for instance, I bought a bodysuit, but we altered it and like I cut the gloves just to make the gloves a separate piece. And like there's just ways that you can fix things. And then the belt I handmade. And so things like that are, I mean, it's just a mix of both depending.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with particularly either one.
No, yeah, I did the same thing with my Tifa Lockhart. I bought like the initial like shirt and skirt and suspenders, and then the gloves I was sent were just horrible. So I bought different ones, like dyed them the right color, fixed them, like made the weird little arm piece, made a thing to the boots.
Yeah.
So I mean, buying and modifying costumes is fine. Buying a costume is fine, and making the entire costume is.
Or having it commissioned by someone else too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Too.
Oh yeah. We have a lot of stuff commissioned.
Yeah.
I think
Because we can't sew.
Majority of our stuff has been commissioned so far.
Yeah.
We can't sew.
We can do everything else, but we can't sew.
One day.
We can make
Literally
animatronics and
else.
stuff. Like, now put a shirt on that, and we're like, Walmart?
Throw cloth at it.
Stick. Somebody got gum, right? Gum. Okay, hold this.
It won't work.
Duct tape?
The
Duct
duct
tape?
tape. Yes.
Duct
Duct
tape
tape
shall
works for
do.
everything.
I've actually, when I was in a bind, I've used staples before to like put material together because I had nothing else.
The first time I tried to sew something, I didn't have a sewing machine. I was making my Ash Ketchum costume, and I'm like, I need to make a vest. It ended up being sleeveless because, God help me, sleeves are so hard for me. I've become very good at making vests, though. Almost all of them have vests now. I'm like, you look good in a vest, Laura. Let's make one.
Well, they even got no sew stuff.
They
It's like
do.
little double-sided tape that you put on there, and you can iron it out and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's
probably
what I
wouldn't hold
do.
for big stuff, but for like seams and.
That's what I do for my Ash vest because I ended up sewing it completely by hand, and I even did
my
like the
gosh.
hems, like the bottom by hand. I like so much fabric, and I like have this giant sewing needle. I'm just like pushing it in, just because like the hem was so thick because I had to have that yellow bottom, and I didn't know how else to do it. So I was just like, what logically made sense to me was what I started doing. And I ended up stabbing myself with the needle, and I like flipped the vest over, and I'm like, why is there's like a bunch of red on the yellow? I had blood all over it and had to start again. But I ended up using a bunch of, I was running out of time the night before FanX, the first one. I just put a bunch of like the no-sew tape on the inside. By the end of the convention, it was just like unraveling, and I'm like starting to like split at the seams because I didn't finish it. Now it's been fully reinforced and it's fixed, and my skills are getting there. But I was, oh gosh,
Well, that's a good,
so much makeshift on my half.
what skills have you learned after you started cosplaying?
A lot.
So many.
Like life
A lot.
skills.
Oh.
I mean, like
Procrastination. We'll
I
do
did that
you
before.
over.
Yeah,
I've known that for
I mean,
a
like
while.
sewing and stuff. That's one thing
Sewing.
I've learned too.
Yeah, sewing is definitely something that I never could do before, and I just picked up needle and thread, and I was like, might as well just dive in. Now I have a sewing machine. Now I know how to use a sewing machine, so that's something that helps me even in like daily life. If something rips or like old clothes don't fit me anymore, I just adjust them.
I take stuff away because I'm a construction worker, so I actually had to use a lot of the skills I learned in construction on cosplay, mainly like PVC frames for things, because I like usually we do sprinkler lines and stuff, and I'm like, well, I know how to do this. And like one time I built my friend like this entire like weird weapon just out of PVC, and I'm like, thank God I was paying attention that day. 'Cause now I know how to do this. So yeah.
Yes.
I would say sewing is the one skill that I've picked up so far. I know this for a fact because I had to make a pair of pants out of fake leather. And so I show up at my grandma's doorstep with all the fabric in hand. And first thing she asks me is, do you have a pattern for that?
Like, what's the pattern?
And yeah, that's basically what it said, is a pattern for what? And she's like, well, you can't sew a pair of pants without a pattern to cut your fabric out and sew it onto. So I'm like, well, I'm wearing a pair of pants. Why can't I just trace that out? So I actually spent some time, and I took my pants off, turned them inside out, tried to
Your
get
grandma's
all
house.
Yes. Because this is like less than a week away from a convention, so I'm just trying to get stuff done because procrastination, got to get rid of that. So I actually got them together and put them on, and they were actually reasonably well fitting, I would say.
I think you guys would probably agree with this as well. Another life skill that I've learned is how to budget my money.
Nope.
No, I'm still learning.
No, nobody, nobody
I'll
else.
say I know how to categorize my spending, but not stick to my budget.
Right.
I know how to
yeah.
budget really good, just not stick to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's in a
And I guess
nutshell.
budgeting doesn't necessarily mean making like costumes cheaper, but as far as knowing what you can and can't spend on them,
Mhm.
we all go overboard. I'm sure all of us do, but it's something that I've been like, I'm more aware of it now because like if there are cheaper alternatives, that's what I'll turn to first. Unless it's something like a holster or something that I don't feel comfortable with making myself yet because like of the stability and like the materials. It's just a level that I haven't reached yet. But if it's something like that absolutely requires me to buy it, then I'll do it. But if there's like a cheaper, like I'll go to the cheap clearance fabric section first to see if they have what I need.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
that's definitely something.
I get paid every week, and for some reason, I just like get that money ball and throw it at whatever I feel like hitting that week. So I can't budget at all. I'm just
Yeah.
like, I need to eat, but I really want a PS4.
Yeah.
I creatively hide it. Like if I'm going to Target to buy some clothes for my kids, I'll get some stuff for me and just throw it into the clothes budget and hide it in other places too.
Yeah.
See,
There
no,
you go.
I use it. No, I got creative though. Like instead of like, because sometimes you can sit there and like rationalize, like I don't need this, and you're like, I'm a cosplayer. There's new games coming out, new cosplays. Need it. So
Exactly.
that's how I do it. I can
I can
rationalize it.
maybe use this particular item like in real life somehow.
This plunger.
Yeah. I don't know what I'd use a plunger for in cosplay.
A
Dalek.
question that
Oh,
gets
yeah.
asked on panels all the time is, what's your most expensive costume? And I'm like, I throw my receipts away because I
Yeah.
don't want to
Yeah.
know. I just
You burn them.
No
All of-
evidence.
it would make it'd make me feel like I was making very poor life decisions, and I just don't want to know about it. I'd rather just do it and be happy with what I have.
Yeah.
Well, also too, I mean, when you do that, it's you're not buying everything at once.
Right.
No.
It's
Like for
very
example, my
gradual.
Space Marine, yeah, I know how about what I spent on it, but that was over about 4 months, 5 months
Yeah,
here and there.
that does make it seem like you're spending a lot less money, but then when it adds up, you're like, maybe we'll keep that one
Yeah.
a secret.
$2,000, huh?
Well, and there's certain costumes that can be like really awesome that you spend like no money on, and then some that you think are going to be really awesome that you spend tons of money on, and they really
They're called
Turn
money
out.
pits.
yeah.
But like I've got the one that it's Mad Eye, and I honestly kind of threw it together, and it's probably one of the cheapest ones I've done, and everybody loves it.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Awesome.
you know what? I
It's
spent so much
really
money
good.
on this Space Marine. This is a cooler one.
Yeah.
And everyone like recognizes
no,
it.
Boo, be Mad
Bring
Eye.
that
Yeah.
eye back. Boo.
So on the subject of like costume construction, when you had to wear your costume for the first time, what went through your mind walking into that convention the very
Oh,
first time
that's
you
not-
had?
They're
to
all
have
gonna
it?
laugh at you. I'm serious. That was my first time because I was in the big Space Marine. Like, they're all gonna laugh at you. Someone's gonna point out that you're not 8 foot tall. You know that something's not accurate. And first time there, I remember I met this dad, and he looked like a thug or something like that. He kind of looked like
guy.
I mean, he had like
Tough
a tough guy and stuff. And he had his kids there, and he was in awe. And his kids were happy. He was happy. I'm like, this is it. Okay, and I got over that fear instantly.
Instantly.
But that
Yeah.
exactly what went through my head is they're all gonna laugh at you. You know,
I've never been afraid of like being in front of people ever, and so the fear aspect never crossed my mind. The only thing I was afraid of was like, are people even gonna recognize me? Like,
Cheryl.
I wasn't a Cheryl Tunt.
No, but
I
I'm
thought
just
about
saying you
Comic-Con.
wore it still, and you were.
Well, it's not the experience I was talking about.
Yeah,
But
that's what I'm saying. That's one that you were afraid to actually wear because it was basically take advantage
Some
of being
bubble-
costume.
see- Bubble wrap and
no, I
dryer
was more
duct?
worried about like, is this duct tape going to hold,
Mhm.
or am I going to be flashing everybody?
The
Um,
first time I
yeah.
cosplayed was Lara Croft. I'm gonna say that name a lot, so just be prepared. Lara Croft is everything to me. I was more excited than anything else. I knew what cosplay was now because of the story I told just barely. But when I walked in, I was more excited than anything else because I'm like, I love her. I finally get to be her. I get to walk around. I only had one holster instead of two, and she always had the double pistol, so I was kind of paranoid about like not being accurate. But for the most part, I just was so in awe of everybody else around me that I wasn't thinking about me anymore. It was just, I don't know, it was just like a magical Disneylandish experience.
My one that was like the thing that stood out for me is wearing the Scarecrow, because I picked the Arkham Asylum Shirtless Scarecrow. And I'm not a skinny guy, and he's the skinniest person in the DC universe. So I remember putting it on. It was like 32 degrees outside, and I'm like, I'm going shirtless into a convention in the winter. I've made horrible life choices with a giant needle hand, and I'm like, there's no way this is going to end well. And I only got called Fat Scarecrow once that day. So go me. Yeah, that was mine though. I was just worried because I have like a weird skin issue too. So, but it actually worked. So for once in my life, it paid off to have it. So, you know, hooray, jeans.
Well, my first costume that I actually completed was Two-Face, and I wasn't really too worried about being scared because, you know, I was surrounded by my friends and we were just going to have a blast anyways. And I did have a blast. It was constantly getting asked left and right, oh, can we get a picture? Can we get a picture? Because we were all running around as the DC characters or the DC villains together, and people were just in amazement, and they all wanted our picture. And
people were the ultimate confidence booster when someone takes the time out to like acknowledge what you've done. You're just like, yes.
Yeah, he ended up getting like free swag from the vendors because they liked his costume so much.
That's what actually happened. Is we were at like the tail end of the artist alley. You know, I'm taking and you know, I'm getting kind of swamped by people who want pictures taken, and then I get a tap on the shoulder, and he's like, "Hey man, I run this booth right over here. I'm pretty sure if I got a Two-Face poster for you, can I have your picture?" And I'm like, "Heck yeah, you can take as many pictures as you want." But so he took a couple of shots, and then he handed me a free little print. Yeah, it was a print, and that was the highlight of my day, that somebody actually wanted a picture and
gave you free stuff for it.
Yeah. Gave me free stuff for it.
I was like, I'm going to take your picture and I'm going to give them this.
To wrap things up, I want all of you guys to describe cosplay in one word, if you can.
Life.
Even a hyphenated word
Love.
if you have to.
Obsession.
Addiction.
Crack.
It sounds like we're describing a new fragrance. Life, love, excitement,
expensive.
Cosplay,
adventures.
Yes.
Calvin Klein, whisper it.
That's what it is. Cosplay, Calvin Klein.
It'll be called CosplayForAll.
It was like sweat
Now
and,
available in stores.
sweat and bacon.
Blood,
And
sweat,
burning
tears, and
plastic.
energy
burning
bars. Perfect. Okay, so we will be doing this cosplay podcast. I almost called it a coscast. That's actually not bad.
You might as well.
Ideas.
TM.
This podcast will be every 2 weeks at cosplayforall.com. We all do the same thing.
Yeah.